What if these things can read our minds?
This is a safe sex zone.
Simple, beautiful fish.
Good night, campers.
Turn on, tune in, talk movies. Welcome to the Video Cult.
It's Mother, it's day for night, it's a fulfilling vacation if you're a creature of darkness. Welcome to the Video Cult.
I can't tell you how completely happy I am to have you here tonight. You're both so perfect, so good looking, so sweet.
All right, welcome back to another episode. It feels like we barely left. It feels almost as if we recorded yesterday and we're doing another one today.
We just have such good times.
Yeah.
It seems like only yesterday.
So I am, of course, am Josh Carmody. I'm joined, as always, by Nathan Stone.
Heyo.
But finally, after 3 long episodes, now on our 4th, we have a special guest with us, another film enthusiast of the exploitation persuasion, Gabrielle Hill-Desjardins.
Hi.
Who also picked this week's movie, so we can all thank her for that.
Yeah.
It was... I have notes. I think the most notes, they're all very succinct, so I took a lot of notes about this movie.
Yeah.
I'm very excited to get into it, but since you're new and fresh here, we'll let you at least talk a bit about yourself. So what have you been up to and what's going on? You're also doing a work term like we are.
I am. Actually, this is the last week of my work term. I don't mean to date this podcast, but I have. So you guys can just suck it.
I think we've dated it
frequently
as well.
What? That's fine. So basically I got to work with the amazing journalists at University of King's College. I got to work alongside them in the reservation in Eskazoni, Sydney, Cape Breton, Nova Scotia. The world. And it was an amazing time. I got to meet amazing people. I got to, experience, the Mi'kmaq culture that's just in our backyard. And it was just something that I've never experienced. Being on an exploitation film podcast, you can only expect us to all be white.
Absolutely.
Oh, the first episode, I was like, we're white, we're straight, we're cis, somewhat men, half of us are straight.
Yeah, I mean...
and we have microphones, so we're qualified.
Exactly. You don't need any other qualification than that. Yeah, so basically, I am a filmographer. I like to create content. I just want to tell stories, and that's what I did. I like to think that I helped represent a community and a person in the community well, and that's all I want. And it's weird talking about myself. I feel like I'm on a dating show. And, last time I checked, you two aren't beautiful, buxom women, so I don't think I'm...
That is true.
You haven't seen door number 3 yet.
Oh, okay. What's behind door number 3?
It's a goat, because this is one of those Zonk game shows.
Okay.
Yeah. What was that, fake Japanese game show that was on, Spike TV or something?
Most MXC.
Yes.
Love
Most Extreme Elimination
That was a
Challenge.
real one. I'm talking about one.
Takeshi's Castle.
No, that's not it. It was called Bonsai.
Oh.
And it was made in America, but made to be like a Japanese game show. I know what MXC is. Yes, that's a real show.
That is a real show.
Yeah. So you're burying the lead by saying you're a lesbian because you picked an erotic lesbian horror film to go along with what I remarked is the last 3 movies have been very samey. Yeah. Robots kill people in a mall, a shark kills people in an amusement park, trucks kill people at a gas station. So for us to go really outside of that, I think is a great, and I'm looking forward to talking about it.
I hope to add a little bit of flavor. A little bit of flavor to this cis-het white men salad.
I am bi, so we'll at least that's our representation. That was our representation so far.
Just a little chili flake in there, and then so you had 1 chili flake, and then you have 2 chili flakes.
Yeah,
I'm just the Wonder Bread.
He is. He's the Wonder Bread, and we are the mayo and mustard.
Yeah. That's the start of a really good sandwich.
The start.
Yeah.
So the movie that you chose, Daughters of Darkness, I was immediately excited about it when you told me the name. It's from 1971. It's the oldest film that we've done, and it's comprises mostly of a French, German, and Flemish cast. So that it's a European film as well. So we've hopped across the pond to bring us the next movie. We went from America to Canada, all the way back to not jolly old England, but some adjacent countries.
This officially makes us cultured, by the way.
Yes,
so
it does,
I'm really excited.
Sure. So yeah, if you want to get us started off.
Yeah. All right.
where it starts. Doesn't waste any time
It
being
does
an erotic
not.
thriller.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't.
Or essentially erotic horror film.
Yeah,
Erotic thriller is
we've
probably
been lucky these last 2 weeks because our last movie, of course, started immediately with a truck killing a dude. This is immediately our newlywed couple banging on a train here.
It's also the least upsetting sex scene in this entire movie.
I know,
It's about the only time that you can enjoy the sex in this movie, I have to say.
I don't know, man. If you ever been on a train, trains aren't really the easiest place to get it on.
I've never attempted.
I mean, you meet some amazing goats on the train. You get to experience, especially this is like what's set in the Swiss Alps.
So this couple is coming from Switzerland, and they've just crossed over to Belgium by train.
I see.
Yeah. I did a surprising amount of geographical research for this one because it was one of those rabbit holes I fell down.
Exactly.
But so we meet Stefan and Valerie in the throes of passionate lovemaking.
I'm going to have to say this. I hate Stefan.
I was going to say, hot take, Stefan sucks.
Stefan sucks. I'm not even going to... Okay, you know what? Going into this, Stefan fucking sucks. I hate that dude. As soon as I saw him with his page boy Beatles mod haircut, and I was like, this guy's a fucking prick.
He's supposed to be British.
He is.
He's not.
No.
I guarantee you that man
not.
is not British. But he looks like if in Germany they decided to make a biopic about Bill Paxton and cast only German people. That's what he looks like. He's playing Bill Paxton in a German language biopic about him.
Yeah. He's one of those characters where you immediately feel uncomfortable just watching him, just seeing him in the thing. And it's quite, if that was the ideal, and I think it might have been because all of the characters make me uncomfortable in this movie to some degree or another, I think he does a really good job of it.
Is it the weird, English accent over everything? It just seems like, I'm not sure if it was dubbed, but it sounds like it was dubbed.
I think they're dubbed with their own voices because a lot of the times with European productions, I can't speak for every country, but I know especially in Italy.
No, speak for every country.
I know especially in Italy, they don't give a shit about people being quiet on set because they're like, oh, I don't know, we just ADR. They ADR everything. I know it drove Richard Donner nuts when they were making Lady Hawk because people would not shut the fuck up. And I think that's just a commonplace thing is that they're like, let's worry about sound in the studio, don't worry about sound on the day. Yeah. So, because the lips match up, it looks like that's what they're saying. And some of these people looking up their filmographers and stuff, they're respected actors and actresses. So I think it is them talking. Yeah. But it's recorded later. It's all ADR.
Yeah. I don't know about Nathan, but whenever I'm on a film set or Josh, if you're on a film set and someone is talking, could be super silent and you just hear you just want to turn up shut the fuck up. It's so I can understand why, but it's I find dubbing doesn't fix everything.
No. Also, they can't fix the fact that they're clearly not lined up to be having sex. No. This is very much sex via the room where they're having sex with one or the other's belly button.
Yeah.
Though I did enjoy the use of I enjoyed the use of blue here. Which they later use because they shoot day for night a lot in this movie. But I did enjoy the way they were shooting this kind of everything was the same color until they turned the light on in the cabin, which I actually thought was pretty cool.
I thought that was interesting because I found it very jarring as soon as they turned the light on, which I think was the point. But it was one of those things where I was kind of like, oh, everything's so crass now.
Oh, God. These things were manufactured in the late 60s. Yeah. Oh, no. But yeah, it was very that. And the color throughout, I found, I'm going to butcher his name, but Nicholas Winding Refn, the guy who made Drive and his movies, he's colorblind. So his movies always have this really crazy contrast to them because that's just how he, whatever he's seeing is not what we see, but it creates this crazy contrast. So I kind of felt they were doing that with the reds and the blues kind of constantly over filtering through this movie.
That's really interesting. We get a weird conversation after the lovemaking where Valerie asks Stefan,
"Do you love me?"
Don't you know?
I want you to say it.
No.
Yes, her. And like it sets up their weird relationship because throughout the movie, I spent a lot of time trying to figure out how does this couple operate. But I also get the idea too that they like just met and just got married because they really don't seem to know anything about each other.
Yeah, I kept getting the sense that it was like they've known each other for a couple of weeks.
Yeah, kind of like a really strong infatuation or lust that they've got going on here, but they don't really know each other.
Well, he's definitely lustful because they keep putting it up. Well, he keeps like wanting to avoid going home, and then so it's for him. It's always this like rebellion. Like
I mean, you've seen his mother, so you know what kind of rebellion he's sort of like getting into. Because I'm just like, wow, these people just like probably just met, like probably a couple weeks ago. They tied the knot, and she looks stunning, by the way.
She looks amazing. I haven't known about it.
Her whole wardrobe is amazing, including her like wedding ensemble, like the go-go boots and like the whole white trench. And I was like, awesome, that she looks amazing, and he's just there.
I had made a note that she's really got that. She's still kind of done up like the 60s because it's 71, so nothing changes that quickly. But she's really got that like 60s into 1970s look. Yeah. And all of the women in the movie look amazing. All of the men look like fucking trolls.
Oh yeah. I mean, you've seen Stefan, and I mean,
he's supposed to be the attractive one.
No, yeah, you know what? He's you know what kind of guy's gonna look like if his name is Stefan.
Yeah.
No
I think
tea,
they
no
say
shade.
Stefan a lot, which is weird. It's definitely Stefan. They say Stefan.
look at his haircut and tell me it's not Stefan.
Yeah.
But it's definitely that sort of weird relationship. It just reminds me of like people who meet in Vegas and get married in Vegas. I think he's like traveling around. He's in Switzerland. He sees Valerie, who is leagues above him, and then he's just like, I've got to trap this woman. Well, trap in sort of sense, marry, but we'll get into how awful Stefan is.
There's more to come.
Yeah,
I think
a lot of stuff
there's not much. There's the conversation that you were talking about where they kind of both say that they don't like each other, but then Stefan. And it's almost played cutesy, like it's like they're both like, oh, we don't love each other. Well, that we have that in common, and it's like, oh,
yeah. So the only other really important part in the train section is that the train stops because there's another train that's derailed, and this sets up the plot of the movie where they have to stay in Ostend, which is a little Belgian seaside town. Because there's a hotel there. I'll get into the hotel in a minute or two because it's got a really interesting history. But so that's kind of where we kind of leave the train, and we do get the first conversation of Stefan and Valerie talking about Stefan's mom, which is an ongoing theme and causes all sorts of issues throughout the movie. And this note I wrote on my first viewing was, who is going to find Valerie offensive in any way, right? Like this was, and then later on, I'm like, okay, well, maybe, I don't know, but it does kind of set you up as like, who could find this woman unacceptable for their son? Like,
my assumption was always that she wasn't also rich, so it's sort of that this is trash.
The classism.
What's the line from? I'm gonna expose myself here, but from The Notebook. It's like, trash, not for you. That's all I can think of.
The Notebook? Yeah. Jesus. Wait. Yeah, I watched The Notebook. I can't say anything. Okay, I was wrapped into it.
So yeah, they're in the car.
Wrapped
they're talking
in
about
as
that.
in I was sad.
I don't have much to say about what they say in the car other than like it just is the start of the trappings of how much he sucks.
Yeah.
When that car pulls up to the hotel, did anyone else notice that Stefan basically it's like GTA and he pressed triangle way too soon? That dude jumped out of the car while it's still fucking moving.
Yeah, I think he was like, I gotta get in this hotel. I've got to get my wife to stop nagging about meeting my mother, and I've got to fix my bangs.
This is important stuff all around.
Exactly.
I can't blame him for any of those things. They arrive at the hotel, which is this great gray kind of edifice that's right on the ocean. And it's a real place, and it was shot on location in Ostend. and it's called the Thermae Palace Hotel. And it was originally built as a gigantic spa for royals and kind of the upper crust in the early 1900s. It specialized in having various bathhouses, including Turkish baths, mud baths, alkaline, and radium water. So,
thank God rich people were irradiating themselves back then. Can we bring this trend back?
Yeah. And then after World War II, it became a hotel, and it's still a hotel to this day. So if you get really into this movie and you want to stay where Stefan and Valerie stayed, then you can do that.
When you said mud baths, it always just seems like something that's like weird to me. Like specifically people like, oh, I'm going to the spa and I'm gonna take a mud bath. I take a mud bath every time I get trapped outside my house and I just roll around because that's, I think mentally I'm just a beetle. So
I just think about Dennis Hopper in the Super Mario Bros. Movie where he's more or less playing like a subdued version of his character in Blue Velvet or whatever it is, where he's just like, you know what I love about mud? It's clean and it's dirty at the same time. Yeah. That's what I think about mud baths, is just that scene specifically. So they get inside the hotel and they sign in, and there's a scene here that I love when he goes to Buddy and is like, if any calls come in, like he has what does the note say?
So the note says, they say there was no answer, basically.
Yeah.
And then he slips him he
slips him, I don't know, 100 kronas or something like that. Some European currency. But it was just so funny because he's there forever, staring at him, hands him the note, and then it has to slip him the money. And all I can think about is her standing back, just like, why'd that take so long? What was that other thing you handed to him?
Yeah. And I felt so bad for the concierge there because he's on the stairwell. He's got 5 bags.
Oh, yeah.
Because what is traveling light when you are training across Europe for fun? And this couple bothered me in a lot of ways. But I guess that was the point, right? Because they're kind of both narcissists in their own ways. Yeah. Stefan's a lot worse, of course. But yeah. So we get that scene where Stefan cleverly avoids calling his mom again. Or for the first time. Sorry. Spoiler alert, for the first time. Then we get our dinner scene. So this is off season in the hotel. So they're the only guests in this whole hotel. So we get a nice shot of them in this empty dining room. And this is another mom conversation. Valerie's concerned about Lady Chilton is the name that we're given here. And I did like Stefan's line of, she already hates you without knowing you exist. Yeah. It gave me a good mental picture there.
It was a pretty great line,
Because I was thinking, spoilers ahead, I'm not going to say, who it actually is, but I was thinking, someone that's like a bit like the Queen, you're just like, oh, they're not your cousin. I'm not okay.
Incest is reserved for gods and royalty.
The Crown Secret Service, I'm not saying that they're inbred, but have a look at those family lines. Anyways, that's what I was expecting, like someone who is chosen for Stefan, but then that scene comes up and I'm like, wow, this kind of answers a lot about this dude. So yeah.
And we will get to that for sure. That's going to be a whole train to unpack there.
Valerie does convince him to go see his mother alone, and he agrees to that. He doesn't seem to really be in a hurry, though, because he's like, I'll go tomorrow. Or the next day, right?
He keeps saying that. He says that about he's being real cheeky and stuff. Mm-hmm. Did you guys know immediately what they were eating? Because I was pretty sure it was sad fish, but it could have also been wet chicken. That stuff that he served himself, it did end up being fish. But it was so weird. Yeah, it was basically an entire half of the fucking halibut.
I think he did that by accident, because you can kind of see him going, because there's a separate plate where the fish, I use air quotes for
it was fish. He said it was fish.
Oh, yeah. And he picks it up, and then you see him kind of look at it, and he kind of jiggles it a little bit and puts it down on his plate, and you're like, okay, I'm sure you made it to do that.
Yeah. It's like, oh, there's a spinal column in here. I can't pick this apart in one go. And then I believe we are now introduced to
Alona?
Is she a duchess?
The Countess.
The Countess, that's what it is. Yes. Yeah. Countess Bathory. We are introduced to. With her little helper Ilona.
I have to say, of all the characters in this movie, and like I've mentioned, they all kind of give me the creeps to some degree. I loved the Countess. I thought she was fantastic throughout this whole movie. there's so much depth to that character for this type of movie that I was really, really pleased with her.
Well, just from what I was reading, like she was a pretty well-respected actress throughout Europe, and I think it was her husband who convinced her to do the movie. She didn't like the script initially, and he was at the time.
You got to do it, baby. You got to do it.
He was like an anime nerd who liked graphic novels, and he was like, "It's like a graphic novel. You got to do it." And so that's what kind of
not the lesbian scenes, not the lesbian
no,
scenes. It was just
that. Well, that's probably. I mean, again, European movies, that was probably old hat to them at that point. Like, I feel like and especially in the 70s, I think Vampiros Lesbos was 68 or something. There's definitely movies that predate this one in terms of like kind of the lesbian horror genre.
Yeah, and then you have like the story of Carmilla, which this movie is definitely heavily influenced or at least based off of.
What's that?
You gotta read up on your vampire literature, dude. All right, picture this 14-year-old Gabby. So basically Carmilla is almost like a precursor to Dracula. It's a lesbian romance novella or novel. Any literary nerds, please don't hate me in the comments.
It only had this many words.
It only had like this many words, and that really classifies it as a pamphlet. Anyways, so basically, it's like this, one traveler. She comes across Carmilla's castle, and then she just meets Carmilla, and just whole thing. I don't have the novel in front of me or the synopsis, which I probably should have before I started being like, have you not heard about Carmilla? And then like I proceed to forget halfway through what it's about. But
we can look up what it is about, and we can revisit it after our
we can revisit this.
Let's do that, and we can keep moving here.
Also known as make sure Gabby's wrong, because she obviously is.
So we meet Vittori. Mm-hmm. And immediately our first hint that she's possibly a vampire is from the concierge, who just admits to her face, where he's just like, nah, you look the fucking same.
Yeah. It was such a long time ago, and Madame looks exactly like a lady who must have changed a great deal since.
Do you happen to remember her name?
The Countess Elizabeth Vittori.
It just reminded me of the new Mary Poppins movie, where they're just like, you haven't aged a day, and she's just all offended by them, like bringing up her age.
She's like, oh, my word.
Yeah. She gets to learn about the newlywed couple by the concierge telling her that the suite that she wants, the royal suite, has been taken. And she's immediately kind of fascinated by both of them, but especially Valerie. And she just starts calling the concierge Pierre.
Yeah.
Just totally throwing any kind of alibi right out the window.
Yeah.
With like because
I can't remember, did she deny ever being there, or because I feel like she says she was there when she was a kid.
She's very
She tells
non-committal.
Valerie she was there when she was a kid, but then the concierge is like, no, look the same.
Yeah.
So I can't remember exactly what she said to him, but it's something along that.
Yeah.
And I also love that once she finds out they're in that suite, and he's like, I don't know, they might be leaving tomorrow. We could probably do something for you. She's like, no. Put me in the room right next to theirs, which I love. Well, she said adjoining, which to me makes it sound like there's a door that you go through, which they don't do. I thought that was going to be the thing, but in fact, she's just like, no, put me right next to them. I want to hear that fucking.
Yeah.
I want to hear the bangs slapping against the headboard. Just the
headboard crashing into the wall. Yeah,
exactly, by the very special missionary moves that guy probably knows. I'm telling you.
We witnessed his moves. Yeah, it's sort of the straddling like thing, and just a lot of. Well, I think there is another sex scene that comes up, but just a lot of ravenous kissing seems to be his thing.
He learned it from the Tommy Wiseau Book of Kama Sutra.
Yes, definitely.
Have that on pre-order at the library. Actually, I'm really excited.
You're gonna read it right smack down in the middle.
That's right. So then we get a scene where kind of everyone stares at each other because Valerie and Stefan notice that she's looking at them, and they look at her, and then a little bit after that, the Countess has gone up to her room. Stefan tells the concierge that they're going to be staying for longer, and they're interested in the Countess, and I think that might be the first time when the concierge is just like, she looks the same kind of thing.
Yeah, he's the only one on the level. He keeps the amount of side eye that guy dishes out like in later scenes, where he's just like, I don't know, guys. I think that bitch is a vampire.
Yeah.
And then we get a scene with the Countess and Ilona. Ilona is her assistant / thrall / lover, as far as I can tell.
Yeah,
she's definitely under her control.
But I don't think she's also a vampire.
But I don't know. I kind of got the sense that she might have been. I'm not sure.
I thought she's not because, and I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but she keeps wanting to go out and drink from people, and Vittori keeps denying her that. Mm-hmm. And so technically, in like most vampire lore, if you're a thrall, you have to do the drinking to then like advance to the next stage and become a vampire. And I feel like she's depriving her of that.
Okay. Yeah. And that might be the case.
It's almost like vampire edging.
Yeah.
Oh, that's tough. That's tough.
But it kind of is happening.
Yeah.
That's definitely what's going on. Though again, I might be wrong because they might just eat together. And it's so she is just sort of the master and the
or could maybe be like a Renfield sort of situation.
That could be it too.
She's just like, master, I have to eat spiders, master. Or like, she probably wants to have that like vampiric experience. I'm saying it like it's like a like a European trip that most sorority girls go on.
I went on my gap year and did the whole lesbian vampire thing around Europe for a bit. Came back, majored in accounting.
Really ruined Buffy for me.
I'm glad you brought this up though, because this movie does really play with vampirism in some interesting ways and what it means to be a vampire.
It's almost antiquated, but then not. It feels like something that could be made now in terms of like just how coy it is with the not necessarily the rules, but how it plays with them.
Yeah.
And utilizes them in sort of this not over the top special effects where the face changes and the fangs come out, but there are things that they do that are vampiric in nature and things that affect them that are like things that are
the classic
weaknesses, stuff like that. So there are like really interesting takes on it that kind of turn it into this more serious movie.
Because then you have like Balthazar's like sitting, lounging sexually on. She looks great, by the way. Like
she's in the purple feather robe.
Yeah, she looks.
I wrote down purple feather robe.
Yeah, she looks great. Like I aspire to have that amount of fashion. But she's like lounging there, and like after Iona's just like. Is it Iona? Or did I just mess that
Ilona.
up? Ilona. Yeah. Sorry. Iona is in Sydney, and mentally I'm still there. So she's just like, oh, the light hurts my eyes. Do something for me. And she just like, Ilona just takes off a red silk, almost like mesh handkerchief and just drapes it over the light. And it just went from like, like your standard like light, a bit harsh, and it's just sexy, sensual, just beautiful, like painted in like a light like red, and so it's just
which I think ignores the fact that there's clearly a ceiling like light source. It's so perfectly done, but it is a nice effect. I did enjoy that and how it changed. But going from her amazing purple feather robe, we then go over to the other room with Stefan and his short red robe and weird little sandals, which I hated so much. Oh, yeah. When he laid on the bed and you could like see up the robe, I was like, God, no. Stop.
There is a bit of a time skip here since it is the next morning. Valerie's got a little tray with the paper and breakfast and stuff, and Stefan is shaving in the bathroom with his little sneaky peek red robe, and so he cuts himself while shaving, far worse than I've ever cut myself. But I don't use a straight razor, so maybe that's legit.
So you guys never actually like, you just don't actually slit your throat.
No, that's not how I usually do it.
Like on the side of his neck, and I'm like, that dude barely had any like fur on his face to begin with, but he's shaving the side of his neck, and that's what he ends up cutting. And it's a huge gash.
It's a huge gash, and It's one of those interesting scenes where it doesn't really have any bearing on the rest of the movie. I thought maybe the Countess was going to see that nick, and she was going to be like, ooh, right? It never happens or anything, but there's a lot of blood involved.
I think because this is, you will probably discuss this later, but it's a bit of like Chekhov's straight razor. You see it, and then at some point it's gonna appear again, and it has to be used.
It's still hungry for blood.
It's still it's tasted Stefan's blood, and it needs more.
Needs better blood probably than Steph.
It needs more It needs more blood that's been in someone who has bangs.
Yes.
Yeah.
I did not like that she started fingering the cut. It was Valerie started playing with it, they're poking at it.
It's gonna start bleeding again.
Yeah.
So it just stopped bleeding. Don't touch it.
She's fucking with it. And he's this is the start of him just smacking her away.
Yes.
Yeah.
From things. And they start. They have the newspaper. I think this is when they look at the newspaper and find that there has been a murder.
So there's been 3 murders.
Three murders in town.
Yeah.
And just before we talk about the murder, did you guys look at the fucking ad on the back of that newspaper?
Oh, I didn't
know.
There's a crazy. I was like, is this some band? It turned out it was a weird ad for clothing, but it's just people in crazy poses. It's a ridiculous fashion ad on the back of this newspaper.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, so the paper is interesting. It's in Flemish, which Valerie can't read, but I think he's you can read German, right? That's very close to Flemish. Yeah. And then she realizes, oh, actually, I can basically make out this entire thing. Yeah. It's no problem.
All right.
Easy peasy.
No, but you speak German. It's almost the same as Flemish. Oh, try it. You'll see.
Derde. Third bloody night in Bruges. Another atrocious murder.
See how easy it is?
So I'm not a linguist, but when I think of German, I think of Flemish. I don't think of being so closely. Again, people who actually can speak Flemish and German, you can feel free to call me names, but I don't think it's that close, unless I'm wrong. I mean, I've never seen someone speak Flemish.
Yeah,
besides this movie,
I've had quite a few friends and acquaintances that I made that were European and kind of that Central European, German, Belgian, etc. Over the years, just through my love of tabletop gaming, which is very, very big over there, and they're all trilingual at least. And I feel like such a scrub. And they're just one of my buddies in the Netherlands learned how to speak English to read The Lord of the Rings in its original language. And he just did that. I can't learn French. And I've been in school for it. Yeah. And I guess
I love that he learned English to read a book that has a bunch of made up words in it.
Yeah,
exactly. It's what? I'm going to learn. Help me out here. I don't know books. I can't read.
I'm bad for it too. The books that I read are all fucking trash.
Yeah.
That's why we're doing a movie podcast.
Read. Exactly. Yeah. No.
Yeah. I just know that some pictures have pictures of a dog on it, and that's good enough for me.
So they find out about the 3 murders that have happened, and he's kind of all hot and bothered by it.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I was really paying attention to him or not, but she seems to be very distracted by this because she stops reading. She's all upset and stuff, and he says something about it though, doesn't he?
Yeah, well, he keeps she throws the paper away and then he's read. He wants her to keep reading it because he wants the details. And what I loved about this scene, because we don't know yet that he's a bit of a sadist, which we will find out shortly, but this kind of sets us up lovely for it because the murders are in
Are you
Bruges.
kidding me with those bangs? Of course he's a sadist. Sorry to people with bangs.
So the murders are in Bruges, which is in a nearby town, and also a great movie if you've ever seen In Bruges. Came out in 2008.
It is an amazing
It's a
movie.
fantastic.
I used to have a shirt because I went to a pre-release screening of it.
Oh, okay.
They used to do a lot of those here, and you'd get tickets at Strange Adventures, the comic store, and they would give them, and you could go. And I went and I got a shirt while I was there, and it says, my fucking best friend went to fucking Bruges, and all I got was this fucking shirt. Was what it said on it. But yeah, really great. I don't know if you guys watched with the subtitles on, but they spelled Bruges really, really wrong.
Oh,
The
no.
subtitles that I had, they spelled it Brugge, and it's one G and an S on the end.
Wow,
I was like, we're going
okay.
to Brugge.
Yeah, Brugs.
But I love that this scene sets up the next scene where I can only assume Stefan has persuaded Valerie to go into Bruges.
Which isn't a bad idea.
No.
It's a beautiful city.
Yeah.
It is very much a tourist
Lovely
location.
canals.
Enjoy the boats.
Yeah. But when I think of when I'm on vacation, places I want to go, if I've read in the newspaper about 3 murders of young women, and I am a young woman
Yeah.
in a strange place, I'm probably not going to that village. But Valerie makes decisions for herself, you know. So that's kind of where they end up there. We get a cut to a scene of them in, I think it's a water taxi. Yeah. And going through these canals. And there's a cute little 70s ambulance hatchback.
Oh, the Ghostbusters ambulance.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think of 2 things whenever I see those. 1, Ghostbusters, and 2, that back when Orson Welles was doing radio shows and plays, in order to get around, he would do multiple shows for different networks, and to get around New York quickly, he would, instead of calling for taxis, he would call an ambulance and pay them to take him because they'd burn through red lights. What a fucking dreamboat.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Especially in Touch of Evil. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Look at the size of that man. You can roll him down a hill.
Yeah, at this time, no. This
No.
was like early. This is when he was doing like The Shadow.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm talking about Touch of Evil, like very end of his career. You know, it's just like he's a detective, but it takes him a while to get from crime scene to crime scene.
He's no longer the man who made Citizen Kane. He's the man who made the Magnificent Ambersons.
Exactly. He's his heart's in it. He's fine. Don't worry about it.
So we see Ghostbusters ambulance, and they go in to look, and the gawking at the murder scene is
the gawkers
insane.
You're like, all right, who's coming out of this place? Like, is it like Pete Davidson or Kim Kardashian? Am I cool, fellow kids? It just like seems like there's like should be like paparazzi there. Like everyone's like just gawking. Like, what's this? What's this? Oh, it's a dead girl.
Yeah, she was brutally murdered a few days ago.
Exactly, it's fine.
Yeah, let's see. That was wild. The retired police officer, which is his character's name, at least on IMDb.
Yeah, it's just retired police officer.
Is easily the most suspicious person in this movie, and I know he's not the killer. Like in that first scene, you're just like, this couldn't be more suspicious, right?
Exactly.
Like I know Stefan's a psycho. The Countess is a literal vampire, and I'm going to keep my eyes on the police officer. That's how bad it is.
He did have a little bit of like a Columbo. He had a Columbo quality to him. And spoiler alert, I thought he was going to have like a moment where he had everyone in the drawing room at the hotel and was like, I know who the vampire. He does not do that.
Does not get that.
No.
Though, again, spoiler alert, I think he was leading up to it and something happens to him. So we'll get to that. But the level of people leaning in when they bring the body out on the stretcher, the way that people are leaning in, shuffling to follow it, like getting in their way, like borderline like bending at 90-degree angles to look at this body was
and the
crazy.
police are there. The police are gawking as well. They're not doing a damn thing. They're just like, oh, this is neat. Yeah, everyone lean in close. Lean in close. You want to see this.
Yeah.
But and Stefan looked like Elton John as well.
Oh my God,
those crazy sunglasses.
Yeah, he's got these big silver sunglasses. And it's the first thing you cut to when you cut to them in the boat. And I was just like, whoa, that was a choice. All right, we've gone places.
I mean, I think going from like the extreme, we can't emphasize this enough, the extremely short red robe that he wears, those glasses weren't really a shock to me.
That's
I'm like,
true,
of course, he's going to have glasses that big. He's going to have tiny robe, big glasses.
Yeah, that's the name of my autobiography.
Tiny robe, big glasses.
You know what? If I was at the airport and I needed a book to get me through like a 6-hour flight, that might get me. That's a good title.
Yeah,
that's a good title.
Yeah, I used to say I had an ex, and just to go off on the title of your autobiography tangent, I had an ex where we were walking down in the South End around the universities one time, and we're just like walking, we're having a normal conversation, and she stops and is looking at the ground, and she like has her hand up, and she stops me, and she points down, at like a bird footprint in the cement, and she goes, "Josh, it was a chicken." And I was like, or like any other bird, and she literally like had to stop and think for a second. She was like, "Oh yeah, you're right. There's other birds." And so for like, that was like the first year we were dating. So for the next like 3 or 4 years, however long we were together, I would just say the title of her autobiography was going to be "It Was a Chicken."
It was a chicken.
Amelia Wheeler.
Yeah.
I love that energy though.
Yeah.
Because it takes a certain joie de vie
to... Stone cold psycho. Like, shouldn't say psycho. She wasn't a bad person, but like stone cold, like weird, crazy shit like that came out of her a lot. Yeah.
I love it. Talking about actual psychos here. So Stefan gets real into watching and following this dead body.
Exactly.
And Valerie is concerned, as any normal person would be here. So she tries to kind of pry him away from it. Ostensibly, I believe, to stop him from getting into the ambulance with the dead body.
Exactly.
But, so I think kind of smacks her or throws her kind of back or pushes her back, and she kind of lands on the hood of a car. And so this is kind of the beginning of like the proper Stefan violence towards his wife arc. And my only note here was, man, I don't think I like this relationship. And I was right. I was glad.
I think it's safe to say that you're right. Yeah.
Yeah, which was nice.
You know, when I saw that, like, I was like, wow, that there are more red flags here than there is at a red flag store.
Yeah.
Funny.
Yeah. All the beige ones are being dyed. They're in the process of being dyed. Yeah.
They're constantly...
We're emphasizing and escalating, I should say. So after that, I don't remember. So I think we go right back to the hotel.
We go right back to the hotel. We get a short
Vittori
scene.
is there knitting with the biggest fucking knitting needles I've ever seen. I watched this with my girlfriend, and who is a knitter, and pointed out that she was like, this must have been before they invented other smaller needles, because they are ridiculoly huge.
They are
like comical.
I was really hoping
she's like knitting with like wooden stakes. Like, I'm not a vampire at all.
Yeah.
I just had these lying around.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I was really hoping we would get some scenario where those would come back later in, and that there might be like a knitting based murder, but unfortunately I was to be thwarted on that.
Yeah.
So this is a short scene where Alona tries to leave. So she's been complaining. She was jealous of Valerie in the scene with them kind of watching the couple and lounging. And so the Countess has a nice line here. And the movie does this several times where, again, it kind of alludes to the vampirism and plays with the vampirism without hitting you over the head with it. And she says, you can't go out in this weather because it's raining out. And for anyone, if you're watching this movie the first time, it's a storm. It's rainy. With the benefit of hindsight, you're just like, oh, I get what you did. Running water, right? Yeah. Like, and the movie does this several times.
Running
and I really enjoyed
one
this.
that they don't bring up as much in a lot of vampire movies.
Well, it's kind of a silly weakness, right? Like, it's not cinematic.
Yeah, and they do it in one of the Christopher Lee Dracula movies. I think it's the one where he doesn't talk. He like refused to say his lines of dialogue, and I think they kill him with a river. At the end of it, he falls through and ice breaks, and there's running water, and he dies. But yeah, they don't get into the running water one too much. But yeah, it's both that, and then also kind of part of her. She does like do hypnotizing stuff on people, but it's always presented as just her gaslighting the shit out of them. Because I wrote down gaslighting vampire.
Yeah, I mean, maybe she's like not a vampire. She's just like some gaslighting woman who has like amazing face cream.
Thought for a while during the movie, maybe she's not actually a vampire, and it is just sort of this. I thought it was going to kind of be more negative about the lesbian stuff.
Yeah,
and it was kind of almost a cautionary tale for lesbian stuff by saying, oh, it's going to be kind of like a vampire, but not totally.
Honestly,
so I kind of thought it was going to be like that, but
yeah. But I mean, like, she's so beautiful, man. You're just like, you know what? Sure. I mean, it's not as bad as the other relationships I've been in.
Go on.
Silence. Yeah. No, man.
And
I'm sure some exes are like, oh man, she's such a fucking vampire. And well, you know what? So what if I don't like the taste of garlic? So what if I I get burnt in the sun, or I have to consume the blood of virgins, man. That's my prerogative.
So that little bit happens. Alona goes. Something that I wanted to mention about Alona: face on, great haircut. Side haircut doesn't work as well. They kind of didn't finish the back, and it tends to be a problem when because I think she looks good. Women do look good with short hair. I'm not going to be like that asshole. But
quoting here now, Josh says that women don't look good with short hair.
But I find that they sometimes, especially, well, obviously in movies, they tend to get someone who doesn't quite know how to do that haircut on them for them, and they end up looking like a pencil. They're just like, it's just like a weird straight down effect. So yeah, I was like, someone didn't finish this haircut.
I mean, you look at her bangs and you look at Stefan's. I don't think they knew how to use a pair of scissors. You're like, oh, okay, great. You're like, oh, these characters need bangs, or they just started cutting Ilona's hair and just being like, snip. And then it's like that situation where you just like, you cut something and then you're like, oh, that's wrong. And then you cut a bit higher. Then you just keep cutting until you have a bob.
Yeah.
That's how it happens. That's why, when I was 13, my parents took away the scissors from me because.
Oh, no. Did you do that? Did you actually cut your own hair when you were like young and fuck it all up?
I did try to cut my own bangs.
Oh, that's the worst thing to try and cut.
Yes, I did. It's just a little snip. And then my hairdresser saw this and he was like, what's this? And I was like, I tried to cut my own bangs.
I had a friend who tried to cut her own bangs like when she was like 18, 19 with those like the little curved scissors that are like for your like.
Oh yeah.
I don't know what I don't know what they're for, but I just always see them in makeup kits. But there's little curved scissors, and she tried to cut her bangs with those.
I don't know what those are.
Yeah, I don't know either.
I've seen them, but
right?
yeah, I have no clue.
Yeah.
No
Okay. Next time. Okay. When you go home tonight, Nathan, you gotta go into your wife's makeup kit. You gotta find those.
I think Dee has some of those, so I should ask her.
I don't know what they're for.
Yeah.
So our couple, Valerie and Stefan, get back from Bruges.
Yeah. Now we should say too, there's a short scene on the bus where where Valerie kind of confronts Stefan about how excited he was about the dead girl, and she was like,
Don't lie to yourself. You were pleased. It gave you pleasure. You actually enjoyed seeing that dead girl's body.
You get the idea that she's starting to have those second thoughts she might have already should have had.
Yeah.
And but Stefan comes back with an odd line that is kind of like, and you enjoyed telling me that? See, we're learning things about each other. And my only thought was, Stefan, those things aren't equal, right?
No.
If she enjoyed telling you some character flaw you have, the character flaw you have is legitimately disturbing. Right? Like this is...
It's it's like, oh, well, I don't like the fact that you leave the milk out. And then, but you're attacking me because I like to eat cats.
Yeah.
I like to eat cats and then wear their fur as a silly little hat. Well, so I'm the bad person.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I think this movie is full of people just trying to gaslight each other. It's pretty fantastic.
For sure. And I keep saying this. There's so much kind of set up and then revelatory things later. So I feel I'm falling victim to repeating myself and saying that, we'll get into this later. But we're kind of already planting the seeds of just being like, leave Stefan, or Stefan should die. But then there's also the other side of that is that there's really no winning for Valerie. Like, she can side with a vampire who is going to take away her autonomy, or she's stuck with a guy who's also taking away her autonomy, but in one of these cases she gets revenge.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of a weird like thing that they do with that. And I guess it's a horror movie.
Yeah.
People don't win.
Yeah. I mean, you get this sort of thing because like she's in Belgium. She's I don't know how close Belgium and Switzerland is. I don't know. I don't have a map in front of me.
They're not that far. Like
no.
You can. I did go across Europe by train a bit and other things, but like they're not that far away. You can get them there in like a few hours.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. Between most countries, it doesn't take as long as like here in like Canada or in America, where it's like a 7-hour drive to the next state. Sure.
Yeah. No, but I mean it's just like it's still like maybe like a couple hours away, but you're still in a new environment, so you're just like, okay, I'm here in a new environment with someone that I've just met I'm saying 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I'm saying like they are learning a lot of new stuff about themselves
None of it good.
None of it good.
really
None of it
not.
good.
Yeah.
You know, like, you're like, okay, what do I do now? Like, I'm married. I could leave this guy. You know, she should, but
Yeah.
I just made this big life step. And it's only been, what, a day or 2 days. And you're just like, oh, okay. I'm in danger.
So we have that where they're kind of more revelations for Valerie. They get back to the hotel. They come across Victoria. She's doing her a giant knitting.
Mm-hmm. She's very excited to see them.
She is very excited to see them, and she invites them to join her for a drink. She wants them to go get changed because she's so worried they're going to get pneumonia. But then is like, heat up some rum.
Yeah.
I was like, what the fuck is that about? I forget. It reminded me of the movie Nothing But Trouble, where they serve them boiling Hawaiian punch. Yeah, I was like, oh, hot rum. Oh,
if it was a spiced rum, and it is winter,
Yeah.
I think I could
Guess
do
so.
it. I think I could do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what? It has to be boiling hot. You know, you got to have your hot tequila, your hot vodka, your hot, whiskey. You got to have like all that stuff. I only want a Bloody Mary if it's actual tomato soup.
Oh, God. Oh, no.
I'm joking, by the way. I'm not a psychopath.
Oh, God. Then just the thought of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what,
No, thank you.
Bloody Marys and Caesars and things like that are already so viscous. I don't know if I need them to be warm.
Yeah.
So they do. I don't remember there's much of them getting changed. I know that we I think we jump right to them all kind of in the drawing room.
Yeah.
Where they're enjoying their hot beverages, which are suspiciously colored.
Yeah.
Because she seems to be drinking bantha milk. Victoria is drinking like blue milk.
Yeah.
And theirs are a different color or whatever it is, but it's like viscous. Again,
is,
viscous. Things are viscous. So.
Yeah, their
man.
stuff looked to me more like red wine, but in like a almost a tumbler, right?
Yeah.
Like it was weird. I don't know. Yeah, and I have no idea what she was pretending to drink, because it was absolutely whatever came out of those udders that Luke Skywalker was drinking from in one of the
Straight
new
from
Star
the
Wars
titties.
movies. Yeah, just
My goal for this whole thing is just to make Nathan as uncomfortable as possible.
Okay, that's great.
There's
There's a lot of titties in this
There's
movie.
a lot of titties.
There actually is, and you get the classic European skin-colored nipples at one point
Nice.
and stuff. I forget who those were on, but they're there. But just speaking of Mark Hamill, he said the props for those two things. The original blue milk was like nasty, like milk kind of substitute that they use in the desert. That was like warm and oily, and he said was really nasty. The newer stuff, I forget what he said it was, but it was like cold and was like actually more enjoyable, something for vegans.
Okay.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, come on, they've got Disney money. How are they not serving him like just nice chilled milk with some blue food color?
Whatever the new stuff was, he said was good. But
Okay, well,
in the 70s when it was Fox,
Oh yeah, okay,
that was
fair
when
enough.
it was nasty. Whatever they could get their hands on in Tunisia, sounded like stuff from like a military kid.
Yeah. So they're all drinking, having a chat, and talking about how the Countess, how she's so young. She's got her very strict diet and lots of sleep, which again, a funny little.
Somebody guesses that she's 35, and I was like, fuck right off.
Yeah.
Stefan
She's
was like
beautiful.
30, 35.
Yeah.
Oh, okay,
Like,
right. It was him
yeah.
who said it, so that makes sense.
Yeah.
But no.
Saying out to all the hot mamas out there, if you're still beautiful if you're over 35.
Oh, for sure. It just was like, it's like,
Josh Carmody just said that anyone under 35 is absolutely disgusting.
oh my God. All right. No matter what I say at this point, I'll just be digging the hole deeper, so I'm not going to, let's just move on.
Okay. All right. We do get Alona coming in a mood. She spends most of this movie in a mood until...
I mean, with that haircut, I'd have to be.
That's fair. But she does bring a newspaper, and so more time must have passed than I thought originally, because I thought they got back from Bruges and they immediately all kind of met up and thing. But she has a newspaper with her, and so that newspaper has a picture of
That's right.
yeah.
It's like it's not like they can just get the evening edition from Bruges
Yeah.
real quick.
Yeah.
So I'm not
I don't know,
sure
like,
how much time
probably
has
like
passed.
Pierre,
but-
like they got some stellar journalists over there. They're just like,
Could you fax in 71 with the faxes? Oh, I guess there was.
Yeah, you could-
you could.
Fax
There was.
in
There was.
71.
I mean-
there was teletext or whatever the fuck
yeah,
that shit
if
was.
they could fax stuff during the Zodiac killings.
yeah.
Yeah.
True. Yeah.
And so their front page news, or the crime scene was front page news, which is it got a great picture of the body on the stretcher and like 100 people around it, all the gawkers, and Stefan there in his sunglasses, looking right at the camera. And this is great because the owner of the newspaper that Alona got somewhere comes in, and it's our retired police officer.
Who is selectively wet.
Yeah.
I don't know if we noticed this, but like
very
he's
much
wet
so.
in the strangest of ways.
Yeah.
And there was an establishing shot of him outside looking at the hotel.
And that
in
rain
the
is coming down.
Yeah.
Right? Like he should be totally drenched, but he is.
There's sort of like it looks like he picked up a wet box. There's like a square of wet on
Yeah.
his front of his jacket.
Yeah.
So he comes in and he seems to kind of have an idea of what's all going on. As Elizabeth, the Countess, pretends that she doesn't really know him or remember him, but he certainly remembers her. And he's kind of delivers this great monologue about the murders and, how they're reminiscent of fairy stories and ghouls and goblins and things. He looks directly into the camera while doing this. I love that bit. It was
I
so
wrote
good.
spike the camera some more, Van Helsing is what I wrote. Because specifically looks into the camera and vampires.
Vampires.
The kind of things you read about in medieval manuscripts. You know, silly tales about ghouls chased away by garlic, and vampires shrinking from crosses and running water and daylight.
Yeah. Oh my god. So I loved that bit. So we do, and he's kind of like behind the couch where the Countess and the couple are sitting, and he kind of leans over, and the Countess has her little pocket mirror, makeup mirror out. And you see the reflection of her fingers. You don't see her reflection, but the angle of the camera doesn't necessarily suggest that you should be seeing her. And I wasn't sure if that was a thing where, like, oh, no, she's there. She's just like, you're only, because of that angle, you're only just seeing like her fingers holding it. Or if we are supposed to infer from that, oh my God, where's her face? Because it'd be very weird if her fingers had a reflection, but her face did not. So I wasn't sure what to make of this.
Yeah,
Do you guys have any thoughts?
I made a note about it because I wrote fingers, no face, / no face reflection was literally what I wrote. And I later, there's another scene later where we see her hands, but they in a reflection, but they avoid showing the face. And I don't know if this is for sure. It's my assumption based on the kind of the playing with the vampire things that maybe it's just her like it would appear as if she has no face.
Yeah.
So she reflects, but it would appear as if she has no face. That's my guess.
Okay.
Is it because of it showing her hands? Because it does very blatantly show her hands and fingers and stuff in the reflections, but she avoids her face being seen.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe it's something like that. But it's just another one of these things that's kind of unclear.
Yeah, it's flirting with you, right? Like it's just like, like maybe it is, maybe it isn't.
Going back to bring out my history textbook, Elizabeth Bathory is kind of modeled underneath this Hungarian countess of same name back in like medieval Hungary, and she was supposedly she killed hundreds of peasant girls, like young girls, and tortured them, killed them, strung them up, bled them dry to make sure that she kept young and beautiful for like the remainder of like her life. But fortunately she got caught because people were like, thought I remember out of like my 15 kids, I had like 6 daughters.
Yeah.
But now they're gone. So what's happening here? So of course she got caught. Then she got, as punishment, she got boarded up in a tower with like no food and, you know, just left there to starve to death. But yeah, it kind of like, because you have like Bathory in this movie and then Countess Bathory, you know, I think they're under the model of like the older woman trope of wanting to remain young. And so if you have like the face being like the main emphasis of like, I guess, beauty, you kind of like suspect that because she's like this blood-sucking creature who, you know, drinks blood to stay young, that she doesn't want to see her face age. So
that is another good point.
Oh, yeah. That's a really good point. And can I just say, boy, I am hot under the collar now after hearing that history of Countess Bathory. I
Nathan,
almost feel like...
Should we have a look at your browser history?
No. Now,
Yeah.
I think that's a really good point, though, because we do see in this movie a lot of Elizabeth's motivations are very human. I do believe her later on in the movie where she's saying that she does kind of want everyone to love her and adore her and stuff, and she does kind of get into her motivation later on, and that could well be it. But she basically tells the police officer to fuck off in more words because she finds his conversation distasteful, and then
decides to go on the most insane history lesson imagiable, reading about her
distant grandmother
I'm
or
trying
something.
to think of the opposite of descendant, because she's
ancestor.
supposed so it's supposed to be her ancestor. It's her.
And Gabby gave us basically the rundown that she gives us there.
Oh, so meta.
Yeah, so meta. Yeah,
and,
basically.
And like myself, Stefan gets way too excited about this. What goes on, because she comes behind his chair and then she starts feeling all up on him while she describes this, and he is just in ecstasy.
He's like writhing.
He probably really needs to change his underwear
in front of Valerie.
And Valerie is freaking out, as she should. This is a very reasonable thing for her to do. But I honestly felt like she was maybe not disturbed enough. Like she begs them to stop, and then she gets up and she leaves the room. We get a moment where she's like, she walks up the stairs and she kind of turns around for a second, like she's like looking backwards. And I thought maybe she was wondering if she should go back, or if there was some part of her that was intrigued or something, if we were learning something about the character. I'm not really sure if that was an important scene at all, but the next scene we get is a wonderful one, because she goes upstairs, the camera follows her, and she has a shower, and then she decides, I don't think she hears anything, but she decides to go over. They've got the big balcony and the glass doors, and they're of course the blinds are closed. She goes to open the door, flings them open, and we have a naked Alona on.
Valerie's also naked.
Valerie's also naked. Yeah, and naked Alona on her porch, striking the craziest pose, like arm over head and like wide-eyed crazy.
Is that like a community college class doing the new modeling level pose?
Yeah. And I was not prepared for that scene. I don't know if anyone else was ready for that particular one. I don't know if there was clues I missed there, but she was there, and of course we get the scream from that.
Which I then love, because we go back down to Stefan and Vittori, and which one of them, somebody's like, what's that? And they're like, sounded like a scream. Yeah, it didn't sound like anything else. It was definitively a scream. So they go to check on the scream. That's when we get I thought she was standing on like a ledge, but she's standing on a balcony that I think also connects to the adjoining room.
It very well may,
because it's a giant balcony.
Mm-hmm.
There's a huge balcony. Valerie's throwing up into, I believe, the bidet. I had to rewind it. I'm pretty sure she was throwing up in the bidet and not a toilet.
Somehow Valerie didn't recognize Alona despite her being one of the 3 other people staying at the hotel, and one of those people being her husband.
Yeah.
Like the suspects here are...
Someone was on the balcony. She had terrible bangs.
I think it was Stefan.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you have 2 people there.
Yeah. They kind of get her calmed down. Everyone goes to bed or gets ready for bed.
They're a little infantilizing to her, though.
They are.
This
very
is like part of this
infantilized,
like stuff where, and just what you said about her like kind of not being upset enough. I feel like that plays into that they haven't been together very long. Like it's that the whirlwind marriage, and now she's seeing this, and she doesn't know how to assert herself with him, and eventually, I don't think really ever does because he is abusive. Though I this is one of the moments where the concierge is giving people the side eye because he's there well, she's like, no, it's like, oh, you probably just had a dream or whatever the fuck they say, and the concierge is like, come on,
I don't know.
something's going on. Oh, something we did skip over was Ilona getting rid of the drink so that Stefan would have to go and get another one. I don't remember if there's much significance to that or not, but that was something we missed from the last scene that we have to go back to it. But.
Yeah, and I think that was maybe also just to maintain the illusion that the Countess was drinking, right?
Yeah.
As well. But yeah, it doesn't really go anywhere because Stefan looks for the concierge in one place, which is immediately the room next to it, gives up and comes back.
Yeah.
It was really...
So back to after they're trying to get her to come to bed. Is this when he grabs onto her? They're like, I wrote grab heads. Okay. They're like grabbing each other's heads really like crazily.
Yeah. So just before that, Valerie finally convinces Stefan to call his mother.
That's
right. She kind of goes around and she's like, and he's like, oh, okay. So then he says like first thing in the morning. And then I just, my own note was, what was this weird pseudo sex scene? Because I don't know what went on.
Yeah, it's just vigorous head grabbing.
Yeah.
From both of them and sort of making out. It's again like it's like
she
this
kind of like
passion.
Yeah, then she kind of like tosses him, like she has a hold of his hair, and then he goes, he rolls over to the other side of the bed.
Yeah.
And then the camera is just like, this isn't interesting. Yeah, and it shows us the
Steven Spielberg. We're gonna pan away from the second.
Are you kidding me? That's like page 12 of the Tommy Wiseau Kama Sutra.
Yeah.
Again, hasn't come into the library. You wouldn't believe the holds on that. I've been waiting months. How wild.
So it's time for a break.
Yes, and then we get into Mother.
We'll come back into a very wild second half of a movie.
Yes.
All right, we'll be back.
Hi, cultists. Nathan here to tell you a little bit about my company, Vox Crow Productions. We're a group of audio producers who would love to help you on your next project. Whether that's a commercial, an audiobook, or maybe even a podcast. Our team has backgrounds in radio, voice acting, editing, podcast production, audio for video, and much more. Check us out at voxcrow.ca for more information. And while you're there, have a peek at our other podcasts. Some of them might even let you hear more of me. Now, let's get back to the movie. Welcome back. It's time to meet Mother.
Memmy.
Who I was convinced was a fucking vampire.
Oh my god,
I mean, more so an emotional vampire.
Yeah, so this whole thing is 10 kinds of weird, honestly. It's the next morning. Stefan finally goes through on one of the things that Valerie has asked him to do in this movie, and he calls Mother. And so this is... I don't even know necessarily where to start from the scene, because you get his mother's very clearly very wealthy. They've established that. You get the... I guess, butler with the very old school early 1900s telephone, walks it out to a hammock in this kind of arboretum, right? This kind of greenhouse. And then we get the dramatic surprise that his mother is kind of a middle-aged, very effeminate man. And
with milky white skin.
Milky white.
I was like, that's a fucking vampire.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean...
Looks like somebody who would hang out with the main cast of What We Do in the Shadows.
Exactly.
Like, in fact, I think looks like the in What We Do in the Shadows, the movie, one of the guys is dressed pretty much exactly like that person at all times.
It just looks like, you're at a gay club and you see like the older like queer people.
The elder gay.
Yeah, the elder gay in like the sort of corner, they're just la-di-da about everything. They're having their fourth martini and they're just enjoying the night and they're just like, oh, the beauty of youth, and just reminisce about the old days, which I love. I mean, going off very first impressions, I was like, that's his mother? Doesn't seem so bad, but, I guess we're going to go into it.
I basically didn't even like realize initially. It was like a couple scenes later and I was like, oh, that's Mother. I was like, I thought Mother was going to show up. I was like, his dad's weird.
It's a conversation. They have a conversation where Mother seems to kind of have an idea that Stefan, since he's calling, has, gotten himself into some kind of trouble or pickle or situation. And I found the whole conversation to be somewhat sinister in a way, because they're talking about Valerie. Valerie's right there. That she can hear, she can only hear Stefan's side of the conversation. But one of the lines is kind of like,
I was wrong after all. What you did wasn't foolish, Stefan. It was merely unrealistic.
I should have known you'd say that.
Stefan. Besides, whatever on earth will we do with her?
What is this home situation, right? And I guess the point is to make you be like, what kind of crazy world does Stefan come from? But the whole thing gave me a really like weird, odd vibe to
Mother
it.
is almost responding as if in their world, everyone's gay and you come out of the closet as straight.
Yeah,
it's like he's announcing that he got married to a woman, and it's just like, oh, this won't do.
Yeah, it's like, Mom, Dad, I'm straight. No!
Yeah, it felt very much like that.
No son of mine.
No son of mine is gonna date a woman. Around here, we only date bears and otters. Which, if you're gay, you know what that means.
I think that RuPaul's Drag Race has done a lot for the gay lexicon getting out into like.
Yeah, I was gonna say, even I know what those mean.
Yeah. But so they kind of had this conversation that is troubling, and again, another kind of one of these things where it's not necessarily setting things up, but creating this mystery around some of our characters and unsettling mystery, like unsettling things are kind of happening to them. So yeah, it's unsure of like what is really going to come of this, but they do want to meet them.
Yes, yeah. So the mother doesn't seem outright hostile.
No, it's almost like, to quote RuPaul's Drag Race. I don't know why I said it like a senator. To quote RuPaul's Drag Race, it's being a little shady. But I feel like in the whole symbolism of this is, you have Stefan, he's trying to escape almost like this, the queer side of him. Like, he has someone who he calls Mother, and it's almost like a hereditary thing he's trying to escape. Like, he's trying not to be gay. I'm not saying, I might be diving a little bit too deep into this, but, it's something that he desperately does not want to be, like, a part of. Like, he doesn't want Valerie to meet his mother. And, and so you have, like, this idea of, like, these super feminine gay man, and you call him by like a title that's usually for like women, or I think it's just something he's trying to escape from. So
well, it really affects him, this phone call, because right after that we get the idea that something has kind of snapped in Stefan, or something has come out that was very much already kind of just below the surface. And so we get a storm scene, and then waves crashing, interspersed with, as Stefan was, was staring out, and then he kind of just loses it, goes crazy.
Yeah,
yeah,
he does. And I'm looking at my notes because I wrote he's always smacking Valerie away because he did this. She's coming up to him and he's just kind of like pushing her away. And then we get the shot where he does the like Arthur fist meme. You know what I mean? Where it's like the clenching fist of like he's just enraged by the sight of her, which is like I was writing this and I was like kind of laughing, and then immediately the most violent, upsetting scene in the movie happens. Where
a bit of like a trigger warning. Yeah, he does beat her, and it
with
is
a belt. Like he pulls his belt off, and we're kind of seeing this through a window with the rain hitting it, and so he's beating her with the belt. I wrote down, this is where I wrote down Stefan sucks.
He's like, he thought, before you're like, oh, he's just an asshole. He's like this, there's something really awful. And then you finally see like, oh, he is a monster. Like there's nothing redeemable about this man.
Mm-hmm. And we get to the next morning, and it's not the next morning. It's still that night. It's still that night. He has fallen asleep. We see Valerie get up. At this point, she has very reasonably decided that she no longer wants any part of any of this, and she decides to leave. So she quietly and quickly packs her things, and she goes off to the train station. Unfortunately, the Countess notices her go, and so she immediately has a plan. She sends Alona to distract Stefan, and she pursues Valerie. And as she's running out the door, the retired police officer has come in, maybe to do a great like drawing room scene where he gets out a big mirror out of his pocket and is like, "Look, there's the vampire," and but she just totally blows him off. She's like, "I don't have time for you right now," which I thought was really funny because ostensibly he was there to do plot things, and she's like, "No, I gotta go get this girl," and so she stops Elizabeth from getting on her train, which was going to take her to safety away from this movie. Mm-hmm. And meanwhile, we have Alona. And it seems, Josh, I think you're right where the balconies connect. Because several times in this movie, either the Countess or, in this case, Alona, come into Stefan and Valerie's room through that balcony. And so she comes through that. She seduces Stefan very, very easily.
Yeah.
And I wrote down slow boob grab.
Yeah.
And really slowly goes for the boob grab. Yeah. And then I don't know why, but after that I wrote, "Where is she sitting?" And I don't remember why. So something happened there. Okay. But yeah, I just remember his slow boob grab. And then I also, my brain now clicked on the Rocky Horror, where Rocky Horror kind of gets its inspiration from. It's from movies like this of the people trapped in the place, and they're both kind of being separately seduced in different ways.
Mm-hmm. And so while this is going on, so the Countess has Valerie. They're down by the beach. They're talking about Stefan, and it was at this point I was like, oh, because you get the sense during the movie that the Countess is really interested in Valerie. She's obsessed with Valerie. But she seems to be trying to get Valerie to kind of come around and forgive Stefan and kind of stay with him. I think with the greater intention of kind of ensnaring both of them.
Yeah.
So it was at this point I was like, oh, like she kind of wants them both.
Yeah.
It seems.
Yeah. But she's trying to give her more of the power, because this is where she talks about how like, oh yeah, men do dumbass shit all the time.
Yeah.
I have laundry lists of dumb shit men have done. Is what she's talking about when they're on the beach. She's like, oh, we'll go back and I'll show you how stupid, because she knows that he's there with Alona, and she's like, I'll show you how stupid men do. We cut back to Alona and Stefan, and this is where I think the aggressive neck cleaning is happening.
Yeah.
Because I was like, oh yeah, I gotta get that neck clean. I was like waiting for someone to bite a neck. I was like, oh, they're cleaning it. They're cleaning the neck.
Yeah, and she's looking longingly at his neck, right? Like that. So this is after their coitus. And
their coitus?
Their coitus.
The coitus?
Stefan,
that's why I wrote, where is she sitting? Because they're supposed to be having sex, and she's like on him, but then because of the camera cuts, she's straddling him, she then appears to be laying down with her head like in between his feet. And I'm like, oh my God.
Yes.
Just wrenching his cock like way down. I'm like, oh God.
Yeah, he needs to go to the hospital if that happens.
Yeah. Oh yeah. There's a sprain issue.
Oh yeah. You can break that cartilage.
Yeah.
But yeah, so
I don't know what they're talking about.
And so it's right after that, basically, that he's showering off, and she's just watching him, longing for that neck that's super duper clean.
Mm-hmm.
And we get some interesting, kind of an interesting death scene here, and it's like nothing I've ever seen in a vampire movie before. So Stefan sees her. And it's like, yeah, come join me in the shower, right? And she's like, no.
I think calling back to like the whole running water thing, where you're just
very much, yeah.
She's like, oh no, man, it's fucking shower, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just letting water fall on you.
Yeah, man. I don't trust no one that falls out of the rain.
Yeah, what a soy boy move. Like water fall all over you.
Yeah.
You gotta throw yourself at the water.
That's right.
Yeah. Are you some sort of soy boy beta cock?
Yeah.
Are you letting the water control the wetness on you? Why don't you control the wetness on it? I don't know, man.
And
he pulls her into the shower and she flips out.
She
does.
does.
It's like she's being burned. And I hadn't made the connection earlier when she wasn't allowed out in the rain. Because I wasn't sure how deep into vampire lore they were going to go. And they were like, oh shit, running water.
Yeah.
And then I don't think Stefan knows the meaning of the word no.
Oh, clearly not.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
It's the 70s. I don't think a lot of men do.
Yeah. And this is... Yeah, and Stefan is very immediately controlling with Valerie, but you get the sense that he's kind of like that with any woman that he meets.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And kind of Alona illustrates this. But I also thought that it might have been a thing where he thought that she was kind of play fighting.
Yeah.
As well as the fact that, let's be fair here, if she is fighting him, that's just going to make him more excited. Let's be fair.
Yeah.
He is. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think it might be a combination of all of those things. What I liked about this was, again, it's very coy with the vampirism. She acts like she's being burned. You don't see any physical issues, right? She doesn't start smoking. We don't get an Indiana Jones scene, like her skin's not falling off. But she's very deeply uncomfortable. And then we get the most unlucky, I guess, the second most unlucky thing that happens in this movie, I guess, involving cutting. So she's trying to flee him. She puts her hand on his razor, which is open. And then you get the blood, of course, and she screams some more. And then she kind of she wrenches to the floor and falls. And she falls on the razor in such a way, and I still haven't figured out how, but in such a way that it just kills her.
Yeah, because I don't think a straight razor has a point tip.
No,
they do not.
So I don't know how it went.
No.
A straight razor with a pointed tip is just a knife.
Yeah.
Right?
But she is killed in
she
this
is killed,
action.
yeah.
But he falls on top of her. And she's dead. And then this is when Valerie and Vittori come back.
I love that timing.
Scene.
It was so good.
Perfect timing.
Yeah. And so Valerie comes in and she screams his name.
Yeah.
It was almost the kind of thing where this has happened 6 times. She's just so fed up with it, finding a dead girl on their bathroom floor.
Yeah.
So at this point we start to see Elizabeth has been kind of working her magic on Valerie. Mm-hmm. And she has some measure of control over her because Valerie's just like, I'll get someone, and Elizabeth's like, don't be stupid.
They won't believe it was an accident.
Yeah. And then she kisses her. And then you see a little trickle of blood on Valerie, just on the side of her mouth there. And then Valerie kind of you get the kind of glassy-eyed stare, and she just kind of does what Elizabeth wants. And
which I did love, because she was like, get sheets from the closet.
Yeah.
And Stefan leaves the bathroom, goes and sits on the bed, and Vittori's like, get sheets from the closet. We're going to wrap up the body. And she immediately tries to pull the sheet out from underneath Stefan, who just kind of looks at her.
Yeah.
And she's just like,
not that one, in the closet, I told you.
Yeah. Yeah. So Stefan isn't of much help here, but he is deeply in shock, it seems. Yeah. And this is a fun little bit, because you get him on the couch. You get Elizabeth and Valerie in the bathroom. Elizabeth is just directing her, and Valerie is just scrubbing frantically. So You already have a very clear power dynamic here. And
they wrap up Ilona's body.
Yes.
They mummify in sheets, except for one arm.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I think that might just be standard practice in Belgium, though, because even the girl in the thing when she died had the one arm hanging out for...
How else are people supposed to be watching know the person's dead?
Yeah.
You know? Like
it could be a sack of pillows under there once we see the arm. Yeah.
It could, though I think you might be onto something that it's just what they do there in Belgium. That's like the tab, so you just got to pull that, the rest of it's all going to come undone.
Yeah.
The next time we see them, they are driving the body. They're driving away in Elizabeth's car, and they're followed by our retired police officer on his bicycle, who somehow manages to keep up
pace with a car
over what seemed like a fairly significant distance, but we don't really get a sense of scale there.
And they do kind of take a long time because they do get the body out of the car. And Stefan gets out of the car and kind of drops it at the top of a hill. And I loved this so much when Vittori just kicks the fucking body and rolls down the hill.
Yeah.
I was like, holy shit.
Yeah, he's been dragging it for a couple of minutes. They get to the top of this sand dune. And he looks down and you can just see him being like, oh, shit, I have to drag this body. And she just takes a look and she just boots it.
Yeah.
Just like, wow, that's
down the hill.
Yeah.
They didn't bring any implements or anything. So Stefan digs
a
fairly
big hole.
deep hole with just his
which
hands.
And now this is on the beach, so he's only digging sand. So he's not he's not digging up dirt, which would be wild. Can we take a moment though and talk about Elizabeth's sweet cape? Because holy shit, that cape!
It's another fashion, awful vampire human being. Impeccable taste.
Yeah. If I had to imagine a 70s Dracula cape, that is what they designed for this, right? Like it's got a bit of sparkle, it's got a bit of sheen to it.
Oh yeah.
And it's just a wondrous set piece for this. I love the fact that Elizabeth is always so paranoid about the sun coming out. She's like, we got a few hours till the sun coming out. I'm just like, well, Elizabeth, if you're so paranoid, you could help him dig, right? You two are just kind of standing there. You could help.
Bitch, hurry up, dig that hole.
Yeah, exactly. You do the crime, you dig the limestone.
There we go.
Hole.
A very common police phrase, I think.
Exactly.
Valerie gets bored watching Stefan dig, and she goes up to a rise. Elizabeth follows her. Valerie mentions how cold she is, and Elizabeth becomes like a one-woman bat signal. She floops out her cape. We get a lovingly zoomed out shot.
Very long time.
Yeah, like a long zoom out, and then eventually she enfolds Valerie in it. Which I thought, it's a very kind of artsy shot in turn, and you get the obvious symbolism of it, right, where she is but I enjoyed it a lot. I just thought it was a fun shot.
It was pretty good.
But it does go on for about a minute.
It goes on a little too long.
Yeah.
And so
then we get a really funny bit when they come down. So Stefan is basically done digging this hole, but he's still in the hole. He's getting the last few things out, and they just kind of roll the body onto Stefan.
Oh yeah. But he feebly the way he just, I guess he did just dig that whole hole by hand.
Yeah.
But the way that it falls on him, and he's just
They start filling it in.
And the detective sees them.
The detective sees
the
them.
detective on a rise far away with his bike.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's implied too that Elizabeth also sees him.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And but Stefan doesn't get buried alive. He almost gets buried alive, but Valerie actually helps him get out.
I was cheering for him to get buried alive.
Yeah.
I thought that was a very fitting thing.
They were just going to let him go and be buried, but no, not yet.
Yeah.
Now we get them driving back, and this is...
Oh, I fucking loved this so much.
I lost it with this. All right, so they're driving back, and the retired police officer he had a head start, right? I guess he started going back earlier, and this time it's the Countess driving. I guess because she wants to get home because of the sun, and she sees him on his bike. I mean, immediately, again, I was thinking of Grand Theft Auto with this, because she just okay. And she puts her foot on the pedal, and she just swerves and nudges into this bike.
Just enough to take him out. I wrote door prizes Van Helsing was what I wrote down.
that's it for him.
Oh yeah,
That's it.
He's fucked.
He's done.
Yeah, but I love that they're in the backseat. Like, what was that? Valerie and Stefan's like,
Yeah. So we do get to see the bicycle crash.
Yeah.
Which honestly, I used to be quite a cyclist, kind of in my university days. And I think I have had several worse tumbles from a bike than that. But are we to assume that he died, or is he just kind of out of the picture because he's stranded somewhere and his bike's fucked up? What do we think?
I think he's older and dead.
Yeah, you think he's because he is like retired, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, paper mache bones. That happens in these movies.
And right after that happens, I forget exactly what she says, but the way she's talking as she's driving after she ran him over, she's just like, "Oh, it's great to be alive."
Unlike the cop there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think he's, in the sort of like the whole plot, I like to think he's dead. But in reality, I'm sure he's just maybe has a couple broken bones. But I mean, you could see him maybe
some guy with a fucking like a metal detector that's going up the beach finds him like, "Oh shit! I just came in here for the sea glass. I don't think I'm gonna find a body."
So we arrive back at the hotel where Elizabeth tells the concierge that she had them out for a night of drinking, ushers them upstairs. Now we get another illustration of how the relationship dynamics have changed because Valerie chooses to go to Elizabeth's room and...
she's in full hypnotized.
Oh, yeah. And Elizabeth kind of assuages Stefan. She's like, give her time, by tomorrow everything will be better kind of thing. And we get the what I consider to be kind of like the next evening where Valerie shows up in Stefan's room. Stefan this time is the one furiously packing.
Yeah.
And at this point we've finally gotten to the point where he is the broken one here.
Yeah.
Because he is begging her.
But you guys did skip.
Oh, did we skip something?
The lesbian scene.
Oh, the lesbian scene. Yeah, it's such a short one.
Take it away.
Yeah.
Take it away. Well, it is so short, and like I think in sort of things like it's like a lesbian scene. What we have is like Valerie just lounging on the bed, boobies out. They are great, by the way, but. So yeah, she's just like kind of fully naked, and then she's like in this beautiful like pink lighting. It looks very sensual, very soft, and then you have like Bathory just lean over her and then just like bite her in the neck. It's like I think it's like the only time we get to see someone actually bite someone in the neck.
And it's shot overhead too, so you don't really even know, like, it's just like, oh, is she just like kissing up on her? Or is she like, is she giving her a good...
I think like...
The penetration is implied.
Penetration is implied. But yeah, it's just like this like scene, and like Valerie just very slowly brings her hand up and put it to the back of Bathory's head, and you're just like, oh, this is going to be something that's going to be very sensual. And then it just ends.
Yeah.
It just ends. And I'm just like, oh, okay.
Yeah. And the movie had time to give us numerous other weirder sex scenes.
Yeah. I mean, you've got like a full, minute of like train sex. And then you've got like the weird head, like,
yeah, the weird, whatever the head thing.
There's a bunch of upsetting straight sex, but then they clip block you in the fucking final hour.
I like that. Clip block. But I mean, maybe because of censors or whatever, like they're just like, oh, you know what? That's as queer as we're gonna get. Besides the overlaying, self homophobia and like the gay man who's called mother, and like the other implied things. But like, I think we can just take what we can get.
Yeah. And that's funny because I did totally skip that scene, but because it was like 15-20 seconds tops, right? And
because like people are like, oh yeah, it's like a lesbian thing, and then like you just watch it, and then you watch it, and then you watch it. I think it's like it's all in like the details, like but like the actual scene, you're just like, okay, next scene. And then you have Stefan furiously packing.
Yes. Yeah.
Like, oh fuck.
Yeah. And so he's adamant that that she needs to come with him, and then that, they need to get out of here. And he seems to have twigged it at this point because he's just like, don't you realize what she is? And even she is just like, when I'm with her, I am different, right? Like I cannot control my actions kind of thing. And so while they're having this scene, we get the Countess coming through that balcony door that no one ever locks. Really a big security hazard.
Yeah.
Really, half of this movie could have been avoided if someone had just remembered to just lock on the door. This is... then we get kind of into the dinner scene. Because she... before that, Elizabeth has some good lines here that kind of speak to her character a little bit. Stefan, of course, wants nothing to do with her, is kind of terrified of her. And she's like, I want to be loved. I want everyone to love me. And also, you'll find it greatly to your advantage to be nice to me. And I think that's because
me, whenever I meet someone, you have to be nice to me.
I love that because it's very clearly a threat, but it's also, I think, sort of a promise where she is still interested in this couple as a couple. Like she wants to possess them both. And I think she's just like, no. Like once you give yourself to me and like you love me and you do these things, your life will be good or your unlife or whatever, right? Like, I don't think she's lying necessarily, but there's kind of a dichotomy to that line.
Yeah. Well, she doubles down on the threat by saying the dead bury the dead, which I think is a direct reference to Stefan. And it's like, yeah, you buried that dead body, bitch. You're next.
Yeah. So she forces them to have dinner with her, basically. And again, she has another great outfit here.
Oh my God.
Yeah. She's quite a real almost like a mirror ball-esque type of thing. Or at least I got that sense from it.
Anyone wears the same clothes for more than 5 minutes in this movie.
But you know what? At least they set it up with those 5 huge suitcases.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. At the beginning. And again, we get a little bit more of the Countess kind of what I think is her just kind of being honest with them, where she says, I'm just an out of mode character, slightly sad that haunts one place to another type of thing. And you do kind of feel for her in that, because in the earlier part of the movie, right, where she's coming up with Alona, it seems like they have been going to these like nearly deserted places, right? And just kind of moving. And it does really give you the sense that beyond her desires, between like her lust and her need for blood and those kind of more carnal desires, she does just kind of want people to be around her and interact with.
And being immortal, like she's lonely, but gets tired of people. Like
She
she
does,
clearly
right?
had no love lost for Alona. When she made it, like-
No, kick that bitch down the hill and lickety split. So yeah, I really enjoyed that part of the movie. So she puts this kind of choker on Valerie that she takes out of her jewelry thing. And I think Stefan goes to remove it, right? Like he goes to kind of take it off. And Valerie freaks out because, and again, at this point, I am kind of more on Team Countess than I am on Team Stefan, who you should spend your time with.
Yeah, I mean, the whole like A or B of like these terrible people, I would still pick the Countess.
Oh, absolutely.
Because, like, she could still, like, gaslight the fuck out of me, turn me into this undead monster or whatever, but she sounds like a treat compared to Stefan.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. And so, yeah, she pushes Stefan away and she kind of goes to the window. And then the Countess, who is still, I think, just attached to this idea of, like, I can make this, like, weird love triangle that I'm trying to establish work, uses kind of her influence over her and tells her to go and kiss Stefan and ask for his forgiveness. She goes over there and kind of like gives him like a half, like very quick little thing. And like, she's like, no more. You have to do it better kind of thing. There's this weird kind of, there's this weird kissing scene. And then I think Stefan finally is just like, no, like I've had enough of this. And he's like, I'm leaving, Valerie, you're coming with me. You belong to me. And she starts to fight him because she wants to stay with the Countess. And so we get this fight scene. He pushes her down onto, I think like a chaise, like one of those nice, like long, the psychiatrists use them.
A shay.
A shay. Yeah. A ches.
Okay. Please note that I set this up when I said I do not speak French earlier in the episode. All right. I am an ignoramus. I will cop to that.
But yes.
The shay.
It's a shay.
The shay. So yeah, and so they're fighting. The Countess, again, for an ancient vampire, it doesn't have a lot of those strengths that we associate with vampires.
Yeah, they don't get into any of the powers.
She doesn't seem to be particularly strong or physically inclined, but she does go to help. But she knocks into their food cart that goes and spills, and this kind of sets up what we'll see as our kind of final weapon here in the movie. All three of them start wrestling, and the Countess grabs a glass. What are those called? They're the toppers for the serving platter, right? It's a serving platter.
Yeah.
It's the topper for the glass.
I forgot about this.
I thought it was a bowl. I was like...
Well, I mean, it is. It's just an inverted bowl.
It's like a cake cover almost.
Yeah.
Like glass.
Yeah, and so she starts pushing it down towards his face. And he's fighting it, and Valerie kind of helps her out. And then it breaks.
Yeah.
And in the strangest scene in this movie, the two pieces fall and perfectly slit Stefan's wrists.
Yeah.
Both of his wrists.
It's like a weird Final Destination. If
Death
was like super lazy. He's like,
there, did it.
They tried to smother him with a plate, and then his wrist got slit. I don't know, make up something in between to get there.
Yeah. And then, of course, we get the one scene in this movie that you can 100% say is vampiric.
Yeah.
Because
they eat Stefan.
They eat Stefan.
He's splayed out. And
and they go at those wrists.
Pose. Yeah. And they eat from his wrist.
He was pretty down for the count. Like the slit of the wrist, and he's like, "That's it.
That's it for me.
That's it for me."
Yeah.
No, not like have like a little juice left in him to like get up and maybe run towards Pierre or something to help him. He's like, "Help me." But nope, just that's it.
Yeah, I still can't figure out how that happened, but I'm glad that it did, because it was a funny way for a terrible character to meet his fate. And so later on that night, once they have sated themselves on the blood of a Stefan, they wrap up his body.
Once again, we're
wrapping up his body.
And I love how even less reverence they treat this body.
Oh my god!
Yeah. They just they just throw him over the side.
They throw him off a balcony.
Ditch. Yeah, well, they throw him off a balcony
first. They throw him off the balcony, and they have a little talk, or they kiss again, or something like that. I can't remember exactly, but they throw him off the balcony into the driveway of the hotel. It just shows it plainly, like falling smash. But it's they take him, and when they get rid of the body, he's just thrown from off-screen to on-screen into a shallow creek.
I love that. And it's full of garbage, and it's just it's awful.
Know what?
So they're now driving to freedom or away from all of these crimes, and so this was okay. This scene shocked the hell out of me. But they're because here's how I expected this movie to end. Right. Yeah. So they're going. She's like, faster. We need to beat the sun. And I was just like, you know when the sun comes up. You should you could have stopped somewhere.
Buy a farmer's almanac.
Yeah, You are ancient. So
check the newspaper to see what the weather's going to be like.
So they're racing the sun. We don't know where they're driving to, but it's probably some nearby town. And they're going on these windy roads. Elizabeth just keeps telling her to drive faster. Mm-hmm. And so Valerie not paying the best attention to the road when she's just like, I need you to touch me with your hand, please. And then she kind of licking at her hand and stuff. So there's a lot of sexual energy there. I just said, Valerie, please watch where you're going. I was very worried for them at this point.
Yeah. Don't let the light catch me, Valerie. Don't. My love, my only one. There's so much of life still to taste. So many nights, tumbling and tumbling away into the abyss of time. Faster, eternally.
So I expected it to end. There's a shot of them kind of the back of the car cresting a road. And I was like, okay, this is where it ends. They're off on their next vampire lesbian adventure. It'll be great.
Yeah.
This is not how the movie ends.
No, absolutely not.
I did not expect that crash.
I was so shocked.
Yeah.
And it's so violent,
It's
too.
incredibly
you
violent.
physically see, I don't know if it's a person or some effect, but you see somebody go through a fucking windshield.
Yeah.
Like, and
like,
Vittori is immediately impaled on a fucking tree.
Stick, yeah. And then, because that wasn't horrendous enough, the car catches fire.
Exactly.
Which somehow leads to a trail of fire just coming for her. And she goes up like the 4th of July.
Wait, sorry, it's Canada Day.
Oh, sorry,
We're
Canada
Canadian.
Day. Yes. And
yeah.
I was sitting there being like, did that, what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What?
It's so crazy.
So it was incredibly wild, but we're not quite done yet because even that's not the ending of this movie.
We still need that stinger.
Yeah. So later, I think it was 1 year later. Did we get a little stinger for that? I can't remember if it.
I can't remember. I think I was a bit shocked from like I was like, oh, okay, expect me over, and then like this scene pops up, and I was like, okay.
And there's a couple playing tennis at a resort. They've just finished playing tennis.
It's like pitch black outside.
It's pitch black, which night tennis. I mean, who doesn't play night tennis?
Yeah.
And here's Valerie. Valerie's there. She's looking pretty pale, but I mean, she's pretty pale to begin with. And she's coming up to this couple, but wait a second. That's not her voice. It's the Countess's voice. So
at first I thought it was just like supposed to be audio clips playing to kind of reference it, but that you do see her lips move and she has Vittori's voice.
Yeah. So the best I could countenance about the Countess was that because Valerie was in her thrall, she was able to kind of transfer her consciousness into her as like a vessel. That was the only thing I could come up with. I don't know.
I mean, that must have been what happened. Other than like maybe just the heavy-handed artsiness of she's now like her because she was left to her own devices and didn't die in the car crash. And we're supposed to. That's their way of telling us, but maybe it is that it's supposed to be. And either way, the vision of Valerie is continuing on as a vampire, doing the same thing to now another couple. That then start to walk down a long road as the camera's pulling out. Well, there's a dude. What is he playing? There's a guy playing...
he's like a mandolin.
There's a guy with a mandolin, like merrily dancing around them like a leprechaun. As it's like playing sinister music and pulling out because it's clearly she's going to feed or turn these people into whatever. And he's like dancing around them. And then you get the point where the couple continues to walk and she goes over and talks to him like, dude, you need to stop. And then goes back up to catch up with them. It was so funny. Like it felt like we were watching the end of a comedy vampire movie. Seeing that, I loved it so much.
Yeah. That's why you got to be careful about what resorts you haunt as a vampire. Is because you never know when like the resort's going to have a silly service like that. And you're just like, God, I got to get rid of the mandolin player. That dude.
I mean, they don't pay him. He works for tips.
That dude is clip blocking me so hard right now. I can't even tell you. Man,
it's like. I mean, but then again, you shouldn't haunt a sandals resort as a vampire. You're gonna have these people who are working for tips that are like, come on, I'm doing this. Like, I'm playing the...
I don't get paid unless you buy the pictures I took of you.
Exactly.
Oh my God. So that is it. That is Daughters of Darkness. I'm not sure I know exactly who the Daughters of Darkness are. When you originally told us about the movie and I looked at the cover, was all I looked at. I was like, oh, it's going to be Alona and this other one, and that's going to be the whole thing. And it's not. So it was not at all what I expected.
Yeah.
No, I really didn't know what I was getting into with this. And I was so pleased about what I got from this movie because I do love vampire films. I love monster movies. That's kind of my big thing. And I've watched all of the 30s and 50s, kind of the Draculas, the Universal monsters. And so I love anything that takes something like that and then plays with it in a clever way. And this movie really does. You know, it's a bit schlocky at times, but this is a very good film. I was really impressed.
In the ways that it plays with the vampire stuff, it almost in some ways is an antiquated vampire film. By kind of doing the, is she a vampire? And like, because we just are so saturated with it in our media that we know so much about vampires that there's things about it that come off almost a little naive. But the way it does it and the way it keeps you guessing, it really is. It's very watchable.
Other than, of course, Pierre and the police officer looking into the camera and being like, "There's a vampire."
That's obviously a vampire.
But I did absolutely love that shit.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I guess we're already like getting into it, but final thoughts, and we'll start with you.
Yeah. So basically, when I watched this movie, I was like, this is great. You know, like aside from Stefan and his many sex scenes. I mean, there's only a couple, but every time I see his face, I'm like, unbearable. The bangs, awful. The gyrating into the hip, awful. It can sort of like play into that myth that queer people are like, I guess, monsters.
Kind of that other, right?
Yeah, that other way. Because you have like Stefan and the mother, and you're just like, this is a weird relationship. This is a relationship that like should be parental, but there's like that underlying thing that it's almost like Stefan is in a weird, like almost, I don't want to say sexual relationship, but almost like a codependent, not really a romantic relationship.
Well, it gives us so little to go on that your brain can't help but be like, oh, is this like a worst case scenario? Like, is this the fact, like, was he abused and that's why he is abusive, right? Like, you don't really know what's going on there, but your point's well made.
Yeah, and then you have, but it's also like you have the lesbian relationship where it's you have this older woman and this younger female where it's just, I hate saying the word female. I feel like an incel. The females. I don't know why, but I keep saying females. But yeah, it just comes to this sort of point where it is like this image of like they're sucking the life, the virtue out of like this young woman. Now this young woman is quote unquote confused. You know, she, used to be in a straight relationship. But then again, like they show this like Valerie's and Stefan's relationship as just like awful. Like it's
they do not romanticize that straight relationship.
No, it's a sort of like a weird sort of clash where you're just like, none of these relationships are good.
They're good.
And it's just like, maybe they're just like in a weird like micro step into portraying queer relationships as something that's not as awful, but they still sort of have like that underlying of like, the lesbian being like the older lesbian being predatory, or even like the older queer person being predatory. And then you're just like, damn, it's we're not all like that. I mean, I may suck the life force out of my partners. I don't. Please call me.
But that, it is. There's a conflicting stance to have with it. Just what we've all been talking about here. That the straight relationship isn't portrayed well. Neither is the other one. It's sort of all bad. And I think that all just plays into what horror usually does, and that's that the horror is the human reaction to these things, and that you can't get away. And no, I think definitely worth watching. I think you can. It's available on Shudder for sure. So if you have Shudder through Prime, you can watch it. It's also on the Internet Archive.
If you are a fancy dancy person who enjoys many of films, it's also on the Criterion channel, which I have the login from my friend, which is
DM me. I got the login.
Yeah, DM me. I got the login. It's actually at.
Are you a young woman interested in lesbianism?
Exactly. DM me. Yeah, no.
Definite watch. I think even for anybody, the last few have kind of been specific about like, oh, if you like this sort of thing, if you do this, or with Jaws 3, I was like, maybe if you're doing your laundry on a Sunday, you can pop that on. But no, I think this is a sit down, definite watch for anybody. Really.
Oh yeah.
Well, I was gonna say I've kind of given my take for the most part, but I will say that beyond just how much I enjoy them playing with the vampire mythos, I did like the horror aspects where, and maybe it's not necessarily a horror aspect, but all of the characters made me feel uncomfortable at times. And I think that like what we've said, right? None of the relationships are healthy. None of the characters are blameless, really. And they're all in this weird kind of world of this nearly abandoned hotel. So this is a movie that has a lot of very cool elements working for it. And even though it's shot, right, it was shot in the 70s and it's, you know, it shows its age, it's still like a very decent looking movie as well, right? There's a lot of fun to be had just in the spectacle of it sometimes too.
Oh yeah, I mean the way that this whole film is like colored, like it's great. Like I always have like a fun time looking at like the costumes, the way that it's lit, the way that they use color into the way they tell the stories.
Extreme close-ups.
Yeah.
All right. So before I drop what is most likely going to be the next movie on us, was there anything that you have that you want to plug? We haven't done too much for pluggables for ourselves. I have a TikTok I'm trying to clean up a bit that I'll tell people about soon. But if you have any socials or anything that you want to direct people to,
you can follow me at my professional account at G Hill-Desjardins. It's
we'll spell it in the description.
There you go. Yeah, I'm not gonna spell for you. Yeah, it's just my Instagram. There's only like 3 pictures, and it's just, you know, I'm so bad at social media where I'm just like, I'm trying to sell myself as like, you know, this professional filmmaker, videographer, but I have nothing to show for it yet. So I'm just like, check out my Instagram, DM me if you need someone to do some videos for you. Please, I need money. I need money so bad.
Oh, we all need money.
We're
all feeling
money,
we're all coming out of the same program.
Money. Yeah, it's yeah, I mean, I guess that's it. You can also, you know, just if I'm ever a recurring guest.
Oh, you will definitely be back.
Yay! Yeah, maybe I might do, you know, maybe I'll have some things more to show. So
awesome.
You can find me at Vox Crow Productions. That is my little production company. That's. I'm gonna isolate that, and that's gonna be on everything now.
Oh, please.
Yeah. So we do podcasts like this one. Right now, I'm actually working on one called Splashing Out at the Drive-Thru. Me and some friends going through drive-thrus, seeing how much money we can spend in an anal retentive, obsessive compulsive need to rate every aspect of the food that we get there, from the wrapper to the lettuce.
Well, I'll say that TikTok now, because by the time this airs, I'll have cleaned it up. But it's Trash Rat is my TikTok name, so you can follow me, because I have an explanation for why I'm called Trash Rat on there, so you'll have to go and follow it to find out why. So, yeah, I had put a bunch of thought into, because the next movie. So before knowing we were going to be doing this, I did already want to try and mix it up from kind of the formula. So I've decided that we're going to go back to the 90s and dive deep into the afterbirth of probably the most pro-choice movie ever, The Unborn.
Okay.
So I'll let everyone stew and simmer with that one for a bit.
I can't wait to hear what these 2 straight white men have to say about.
Well, maybe we'll have to have you back for that.
Yay!
One. it would certainly help round it out.
It would.
A movie about pregnancy, something we're not at all able to even imagine.
All right. Apparently there's a 2020 version of this as well. Or is that the one we're watching?
No, it's the early 90s. I think it's a Corman production.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Kathy Griffin has a bit part in it as a lesbian.
Oh, I can't wait.
Boy, this looks fun. All right, we'll see you next week, everybody.
Be sure to tell the young woman that Mother sends regards.
Thanks for listening. If you haven't already, join the cult today by subscribing and giving us a 5-star review on your podcast platform of choice. Help us grow the cult by sharing it with your friends, family, and that chained-up man you keep in your basement. Finally, you can connect with us on Facebook at The Video Cult, or on Instagram and TikTok at video_cult666.